Hi to all our fellow Reflect doers. It's wonderful to be sitting on this very charming set that TechIsland has set up. Thank you to the team of TechIsland for inviting me and offering me the privilege to be a moderator of this fireside chat with a distinguished leader in the field. So we're going to be delving into the blueprint for women in the tech industry with a special emphasis on the growing empowerment of women in this dynamic field. As we convene the conversation today, we'll be gaining insights from a prominent industry leader, Arsane. Let's welcome Arsane, who's at the forefront of business marketing at TikTok. TikTok is a platform that's obviously taken the world by storm. It's not only a hub for creativity, but it's also a place where diverse voices and talents flourish in the world of tech, where change is constant. TikTok has played a transformative role in giving women the space and tools to shape their narratives, break boundaries, and inspire countless others to do the same. Our guest's expertise in marketing and her first-hand experience navigating the tech landscape makes her a shining example of the growing empowerment of women in the industry. Today, she'll be sharing her insights and the strategies that have propelled her and countless others forward. So, Annie, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Can you share with us your personal journey and what inspired you to pursue a career in marketing, especially for a platform as dynamic as TikTok?
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to. So I started my career in Lebanon. I'm actually Lebanese. I started it here, close by, and I started it in Procter & Gamble. I started as research, insights and analytics, actually. And I spent a decade there. And then I felt something tugging at me. I wanted to do a bit more, to move from recommending to actually actioning. And I moved to brand management within P&G still. It was a big step because I had to go backwards. I had to go from a head of department to an assistant brand manager. So kind of a little bit of a restart. But I felt it's a step backwards to propel me forwards. I moved to marketing, got the tugging feeling again a few years later, about 5 years later, and I felt, okay, I've learned the fundamentals of marketing from the school of marketing. Now I wanted to go into something where there's a bit more risk, it's a bit more exciting, it's a bit more fun, and that's how I found myself at TikTok.
A lot more challenging.
A lot more challenging, where the risk of failure is bigger, but that's kind of the exciting part of it. And here I am heading the business marketing department at TikTok.
Absolutely phenomenal and inspirational. What are some key strategies you've implemented to succeed in a field that is often seen as male-dominated?
Thanks for that question. Well, I'll be fully transparent here. There is a strategy that I continue to work with throughout my tenure, basically. And it's managing my negative self-talk. You know, I don't know if well, I'm pretty sure a lot of us have felt this, where you have this little voice saying things, and you're saying things to yourself. In fact, if I would say to others what I say to myself, I'd probably have 0 friends. You know, I would say things like, yeah, you're starting a family. Should I really go for that promotion? Or, this is comfortable. Let me just stay here and just ride it out. But I thought it must be something wrong with me because no one talks to themselves like that. And then the more I talked to other women specifically, and the more I read about this, I found out that, in fact, that's the norm. Negative self-talk seems to be something we all do. And my strategy then to counter that is I do it in 2 ways. One is, if you've read Brené Brown, she says, shame loves secrecy. So it's so true. The minute you get it out, it's no longer shameful. So when I have negative self-talk, I have close friends that I disclose it to. And even before they say anything, they always say great stuff, but even before they do that, it just dies on the spot. And the second thing is I also counter it with a bit of positive talk, sometimes even pompous talk, just to, pump myself up. And I remind myself that I've had negative self-talk throughout my career, but here I am. Clearly, it's unfounded.
Oh, thank you for sharing those tips on managing those horrible stories we often tell ourselves. So I'm sure that if we try and put some of these strategies into practice, a lot of us women who are fearing taking that step and moving forward will be able to take those giant leaps.
Yeah.
Are there any mentors or role models, of course there must be, male or female, who have particularly influenced your approach to leadership and career growth?
Yes, there have. I've been blessed with mentors, coaches. Let me call them all allies. And I think if I had to spotlight two, I would say one at home, one in the office. At home, I have a great ally in my husband. And I think the biggest paradigm shift we've had together, because he has a career, I have a career, and the biggest shift was when we realized this whole concept of lead career can be dynamic. So I can be lead career for a couple of years when I'm trying to get a promotion, let's say, and he leans in more into my career. And then I step back a bit, and then he becomes lead career. And that has been game-changing for us because we've been able to both get the fulfillment that we seek in our careers without one having to suffer at the expense of the other. The second is in the office, and currently in TikTok, I'm blessed with two amazing managers, manager and manager's manager, both men, very smart and capable men, and big believers in diversity. Diversity of backgrounds, diversity of thought, diversity of gender, because they believe it adds value to the business. And the way I see it, I feel that as women, we tend to shy away from deliberately creating this allyship with our leaders. I don't know why there's a bit of taboo around it, but I found that at the end of the day, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I'm putting my heart and soul into the business and allowing the business to grow accordingly, which is perfect for my manager. Then he supports me, and we just have this, it becomes a very nice virtuous cycle. And as I grow with him, I grow my whole team. So it's really win-win-win for everyone. And I encourage women to take that step. My experience has been that men tend to take that step a bit more easily than women.
I love the term alliance that you used, and also the balance that you're finding between family and work. And I think this is where the constituent key to make it, to being successful and being happy, is just keeping the balance. And I think a lot of the time women tend to be able to find that balance because they are mothers and they multitask and they're compelled to be able to find balances across the board. How can companies foster a more inclusive environment for women in tech roles? How do you believe that they can do that?
First, I believe there's been a lot of progress there. I think companies have been, in tech or out of tech, have been very deliberate about this. But I wanna go a bit beyond that and beyond policies, and I wanna talk about authenticity, which is something that I've learned to value through TikTok. TikTok, not the employer, TikTok, the platform. And one of the things I love about the platform as a consumer of it is that you can just show up the way you are. It's very authentic. In fact, you don't feel welcome if you're not authentic in a way, right? So it's kind of banned fake. And I love that because when we come in our true authentic self, what's more inclusive than that? Because I'm being accepted and rewarded just for being myself. And if I bring it back to your question about the workplace, I think as women, not as employees, basically, as just women, we have a role to come authentically. No more superhero stuff. I mean, I have it all, and I've said, it's not real. There's always, support system, there's always failures. I just told about how I went backwards in my career to go forward. I would love us to start talking about our successes, but also our low points and where we failed and how we've learned from that failure. Because that becomes accessible. I can look up to someone and think I can be her because she's human, right? She's not superhuman. And I think the more we're authentic, the more we will encourage generations, and I hope to encourage my daughters to actually aspire, because it's real, and the person in front of you is someone you can become, because they have their lows and their highs.
Oh, that's so inspiring.
Thank you.
TikTok has given a voice to many. How's the platform ensuring that women creators, especially from diverse backgrounds, feel empowered and more represented?
I think, so for anyone who's tried TikTok, it's not based on demographics. It's much more based on communities. So as women get into the community, their communities, they find that they have their voice. I talked about authenticity. They can talk about things that relate to other women. So I'll give you some examples in terms of communities. Hashtag Women of TikTok is a community that has, I think, 13 billion views globally, where women from all walks of life, including leaders and trailblazers, go and try to kind of break some barriers, try to challenge some issues, and they come together within that. You have women in sport. I think that's about 9 billion views, if I'm not mistaken. Women in STEM.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
So there are quite a few communities. There's a community for everyone. There's quite a few communities. And then you have creators, male and female, but since we're for the topic today, women who have become very big and kind of started their own businesses throughout, by becoming creators. We were just chatting about that. Also recently, TikTok partnered with FIFA on the Women's World Cup, and kind of created a voice for women to, how broadcasting shares who won, who lost, but then on platforms like TikTok, you get to see the behind the scenes and how are women feeling and what are they, and just, a deliberate exercise to bring the voices of women out there.
Community support.
Yes.
So I see that from being a user myself, I see that TikTok does offer that to a large extent. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where people are headed, especially women nowadays.
Yes.
They need the support of certain, the groups
Yes.
that they're affiliated with. TikTok has a diverse user base. How do you approach marketing strategies that resonate with different demographics, including women? I think you've partly answered this.
Yes.
And ensure inclusivity and representation in your campaigns.
Exactly. Communities, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't, you could be a 15-year-old girl who likes to dismantle her electronics. You could be a 24-year-old fresh college graduate, a guy who's looking for a job in tech, or you could be a 55-year-old mom of two who has her own tech startup. You will find each other in a community called Tech Talk, for example, that has about 40 billion views. You can find each other there's a community for everyone. There's a community called Gaming that has 500 billion views. There's a community about tech in general. So really, it doesn't matter. That's a key difference, TikTok versus other platforms, where you're not combined based on your demographic or based on who you know. It's based on what you like. So the community brings you together with other people who are like-minded.
Through your likes.
Exactly. Through what you choose to what you choose to watch, what you choose to spend your time on. I like books. I always end up on book talks, right? So this is how it puts us together. So it goes beyond demographics. And because it's interest-based, it's kind of inherently inclusive because you're with like-minded people.
Yeah, this is an interesting way of looking at demographics moving into the future. Can you share a personal mantra or guiding principle that helps you navigate the challenges of being a parent in the dynamic world in balancing career and family? Again, you've also touched on this, but
yes,
it's
I
so
can.
Inspiring that if you
Thank
can,
you.
the more you share, the more we want to hear.
So I have two girls, Ella and Carly. They're 7 and 10. And when I had Ella, going back to work was just like the guilt was unbearable. I felt like a bad mom every single day, and I understood from my friends that I'm not alone in this, but. What I realized, and that was a game changer for me, what I realized is that, say I stop working and I stay home. Now, a lot of women prefer that, and I respect that, but for me, I am passionate about my career, and I do want to grow there. So what message am I giving my daughters? I'm telling them that when you have kids, your life stops and becomes about the kids. I bet you they will never want to have kids. Now, again, that's a choice they make in the future. But I need to show them that I continue to be a career woman. I continue to be a woman. I continue to be a wife. I can play many roles because kids complete my life. They don't just come and stop it. So that, for me, helped me deal with the guilt and helped me, my youngest Carly said, "Mommy, why are you traveling? I'm based in Dubai, stay." And because, "Mommy, I like doing that." And I tell her what I talk about, and we had an event that was live streamed and they watched it and they felt proud of me, which is fantastic because we usually feel proud of them, right?
Yeah.
So bringing them in, I would say two things. One, being role modeling what you want them to be. And second, trying to bring them in. And, I work at TikTok, so it's easy to bring them in. They think I'm cool. So which is not bad.
Yeah. Wonderful. Do you involve your daughters in your passion for technology? And if yes, how do you encourage their interest in STEM fields?
Yeah. So again, I get cool points for being at TikTok, which is great. But jokes aside, my daughters have taught me something, that when I try to push my agenda on them, it just gets pushed right back. Yeah, exactly. So what I try to do is I try kind of exposing them to things. And then whatever, whatever gets caught, I then invest into. So for example, Ella loves to draw. So I get her supplies to draw. I also got her an iPad pencil so she can draw on her iPad. So I try to, it's linked to STEM, not exactly that. I got them some of those programming toys, the robots they hated them. So those we then donated. So again, I try and then we see where we end up.
Yeah, we have tools that can support interests and skills of kids, and this is going to be the trend. As you look back on your career and ahead to the future, what's one lesson you'd want the next generation of women leaders to remember?
One lesson would be to be deliberate. I think women historically have spent a lot of time in the passenger seat. And though some might prefer that, I think even if you choose that, I think you need to be deliberate about it. Don't let others drive you around, basically. I think it's fun being in the driver's seat. I think it's exciting, it's challenging. And, it does come with a risk of failing. But, I've explained a bit about my career choices. I think I read somewhere that failure is temporary, but regret is forever. And that's why I chose to take the risk of failing. And, I have failed and I have succeeded, but the success outweighs the failure. So, long story short, I think being deliberate is key and just choosing where you want to go. Though that might change, but just the path there will, you know where you're going. There's a North Star, and you're deliberate about your career choices to get there.
Wow, thank you, Annie. You've been most inspirational to us. I think the takes are balance, authenticity. I loved how you elaborated on authenticity. Embrace your failures and lead the way and shine through.
Thank you.
I think those are the takes I will be taking with me from this talk. It was a real pleasure and privilege. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone.